Vegana Presence. Escape from Paradise. By Nick Banyadi. Chapter 1. Something was not right. There had never been such a stir on the farm before. Zell patiently waited his turn, as a number of boys before him took theirs. He was the oldest in the dormitory, and the appointed dom prefect. He preferred, however, not to use his position to his advantage. When his turn came, like the others before him had done, he knelt and stared through the narrow slot in the brickwork. In the distance, directly in front of him, he could see the clock face on the north wall of the administration block. From the little he knew about reading the time, Zell guessed it was not 6 o'clock yet. The little hand was on the number 6, but the big hand had some distance to go before lining up with the number 12. The impressive aluminium and glass building of the administration block stood tall above all the other buildings. It was the pride and joy of the owners of the facility. "Can you tell us what's happening out there?" one of the boys requested. "Is it true we are being moved to another facility?" someone else asked. Zell said nothing, as he quietly listened to the argument that had started after the second question had been asked. "Seriously, try not to ask silly questions," someone shouted. "How is he expected to know that, when he's been in here all night like the rest of us? He's the dorm prefect. He may know something that the rest of us don't have any information on," the lad who had asked the question responded. "Why would they want to move us to another facility anyway?" A loud voice questioned. "What's wrong with this place?" "You don't find anything wrong with this place?" some other lad chipped in. Zell stopped listening, and focused on figuring out what was happening outside. Along the horizon, the faint rays of an early morning sun struggled to rise above the peak of a small hill. Birds were already in full song, as if to outdo the noise in the yard. Wisps of fog floated in the morning air, making it difficult to see into the distance. There was just enough light for him to make out what was happening in the assembly area of the yard. He angled his head a little to the right. Though the brick wall partially blocked his view, he could still make out some activity. For the first time, Zell saw the dogs he had on recent occasions heard barking in the night. They were huge beasts, bigger and meaner than he had ever imagined. The volume of noise being created indicated that there were more of the hounds hidden out of view. He shuddered at the thought of being chased by such huge animals. The men he was seeing were not the regular guys who ran the daytime security shifts. These guys looked as big and mean as the dogs they were handling. Probably a different company did the night shifts, he guessed. What could have happened during the night for this gathering to have been called upon this morning? "Can someone else now have a go?" a voice called out from behind him. "We're also interested in seeing what's happening out there," another said. "Come on. We all know there's a 2-minute rule when it comes to having a turn at the slots," a familiar voice added. show some respect. That's your dorm prefect you're talking to, someone insisted. Zell pretended not to hear. He turned his head to see if anything was happening on the other side of the yard. Nothing. He had seen enough, and he was not too pleased with the display of security in the yard. The breath from the 10 or so pairs of nostrils breathing down his neck made Zell give up his position at the slot. He was barely off his knees when he was shoved aside by his dorm mates, as the lads pushed and shoved each other for a turn. He looked across the dormitory to the 2 other spots, where there were holes in the wall. There were lads gathered there as well, eager to find out what was going on. Zell slowly headed back to the corner, where his bunk bed was. Most of the boys who had had their turn were already back on their mattresses. Some had drifted to sleep while some, just like him, pondered what was going on. Zell lay on his bed, fingers clasped behind his head. He looked at the roofing sheet high above. There were 3 of these structures on the compound. The buildings had originally been built as warehouses. 2 of them had been converted into dormitories for the boys, while one was still used for its intended purpose. The rectangular brick building was long and narrow, with a large, solid metal gate at one end. There were no windows. Fresh air came in through the gap where metal supports, fixed to the wall, held the roof in place. Luckily, the climate was generally cool for most of the year, otherwise they would have been roasted alive. Their bunk beds had been arranged at the farthest end of the facility, leaving a lot of room between the beds and the metal gate. This space served as a play area for the boys. When they got bored, they would either kick around an old footballs, run 50-meter dashes, or play some of the childhood games they had grown up with. Asked Dorm P, "What do you think is happening out there?" The lad in the bunk bed next to Zell hissed. "Well, your guess is as good as mine," Zell replied, not wanting to be drawn into any useless conversation. "Do you think those are the authorities here to set us free?" the lad asked. "Don't you think that's wishful thinking?" Zell answered with a question. "Wouldn't they have stormed this place already, if they were here to set us free?" "Well, yeah, guess you're right. I thought those were sensible questions to ask." "Seriously, I'm tired of this prison life," the lad said. Zell totally agreed with his colleague's last statement, but said nothing. This place felt more like a prison than a dormitory.